are moving to our last country of the day, night, morning, wherever you are, and that is Malaysia. And so I know that our colleagues asked us to reorganize their three presentations a little bit, and Nick did that in the schedule. And so Nick just put into chat our next presentation. So if we have Maud or Hasrul or anybody else from the team for the presentation titled The Current State of Employment Opportunities for People with Disabilities in Malaysia. Do we have anybody here from Malaysia who is a presenter?
Oh, yes, it's me.
So Ashraf, are you part of this presentation or another presentation?
I want to present my to a part of Malaysia lah, Malaysian part.
Oh, there's Hasrul. Okay. Are you ready?
Yes, please,
yes.
Ashraf. Ashraf will present it.
Okay, perfect. So if you just don't mind introducing yourselves, and you can start. You have 20 minutes.
All right. So, good morning to everyone. Today, I would like to present about employment opportunity for people with a disability in Malaysia. So, we want to talk about our current status, challenges, and initiatives from Dr. Shawgari bin Osman, and we are from Malaysia. Of University Education Sultan Idris. So the first is for introduction, what is employment? Employment provided financial stability, dignity and social inclusion for people with disability called PWDS, and employment is crucial for allowing them to contribute to society and enhance their overall well-being. So why is this topic important? The first thing is examining how Malaysia support PWDS in the workforce. So the second thing is identifying challenges and solutions for an inclusive labor market. So we go through a definition of disability. Who are the person with disabilities? Is called like PWDS. As defined by a person with disability, PWDS are those with a long-term impairment that hinder their full participant in society. Okay, so the first thing is visual impairment. The second thing is hearing impairment, and the third is physical disabilities and speech disabilities and learning disabilities and mental disabilities. So for the demographic of PWDS in Malaysia, we go through a statistic on PW in Malaysia. Totally register more like in 2023, you can look the number, the amount that is very higher is show that 3,700 disabled civil servants have been employed by the government since 2022. For in the private sector, more than 700 people with a various form for disability has been employed from 2022 to May 21, 2024. So we go through with a government policy for the 1% employment quota for PWDS in the public sector. The Malaysia government set a 1% employment quota in public job for PWDS. So, however, this goal remain unmet. So another key policy, employment protect of PWDS right, and also a person with disability equal to employment access. All right, we go to the legal framework. Okay, legal protection for PWDS is in employment, like have Article 8 of the Federal Constitution, like prohibit discrimination. So Malaysia also have a Malaysia commitment to UNCRPD is called like sign the United Nations Convention on the Right of Person with Disability. The short name is UNCRPD. Okay, so the next is government initiative. For the key program supporting PWD employment is like OKU Talent Exchange Program, OTEP, job coaching program, which incentive for employer hiring PWDS. So how effective are these programs? The first is limited awareness for among employers, and the second last is need for a stronger enforcement and monitoring. But for a challenging in employment, the first is employment bias and discrimination. For we can see many employers adopt PWDS capability and prefer non-disabled employers. For the second is a lack of disability awareness leads to unfair hiring practice. Number two is a workplace accessibility issue. We can see a limited physical access, like many office lack a ramp, elevator, or access a restroom. Second is a technology barrier, like a few workplace offer assistive teach for a blind or deaf employees. And the third is a lack of education and skill training lah. We can see many PWDS receive for access to a quality education limiting their job qualification, and also a few vocational training program for PWDS exist in Malaysia. So we can look a role of NGO. So a National Council of the Blind Malaysia, we call NCBM, provided braille training, job coaching, and for visually impaired worker. Okay, the number two is OKU Talented Exchange program lah, like OTP, and for help PWDS again skill and also job placement through a government funded training. And the lastly is OKU right matter, like to employment right, workplace accessibility, and also policy reform. Okay, so and number four is OKU job portal. So that is provided a dedicated platform connecting a person with disability with a potential employer, facilitating job search tailored to their skill and needs. Okay, in that future have a job listing, like offer a wide range of a job opportunities suitable for PWDS. Okay, for example, JobStreet lists a various position under OKU job in Malaysia, and employer connection, and also have enable direct communication between a job seeker and inclusive employer, and also have the OKU Talent Achievement Program, OTP, by HRD Corporation assist PWDS in acquiring the right skill, secure job placement, and also promoting in the workplace lah. So, for a technology advancement for PWD employment, we can look how technology support PWD in the workforce. So, the firstly is assistive tool to improve accessibility, productivity, and inclusion, right? So the second is employers must adopt technology to create equal opportunity. So like we can see, AI power communication tool and can translate to teach to speak, and also sign language for a deaf. Also a Google Live transcribe for a convert speech into a real-time caption. Okay, the second thing is a smart accessibility device. We can look at the smart wheelchair, improve workplace mobility, and also braille e-reader, like help visually impaired employers read digital text. And lastly, a digital workplace tool lah. So we can see a screen reader NVDA, JAWS, JAWS, and also assist blind employers in using a computer, and also have a speech-to-text software that can help a worker with a physical impairment. Right? So we can look the indication and training for PWDS. Okay, why is indication crucial? Like higher education and vocational training increase employability. All right, the first is special need vocational college. We call in Bahasa Melayu is College Vocational OKU that offers specialist skill training for PWDS and also have a SOCSO return to work program which train PWDS injured at work for a new career. So for the employer perspective, the first challenge faced by employer in hiring PWDS, the first is misconception and biases. Is 50% of employers believe that PWDS have a lower productivity. Okay, but cost concern is 30% think of workplace modification for PWDS are too expensive, and also the lastly a lack of awareness that we can see many employers are unaware of government incentive for hiring PWDS. So how about employer success story? We can look at Starbucks Malaysia. We have a deaf friendly store increase brand reputation and customer engagement. And also we have a GIDEC Malaysia. We call a post create visual workflow system for a deaf employees, boosting efficiently. Okay, and lastly, at Pesco Malaysia, we have inclusive hiring improve staff, retention and customer satisfaction. Okay, for the recommendation of improving PWD employment in Malaysia, the firstly is strange policy implementation and enforcement that ensure that 1% public sector employment quota is met, and also introduce penalties for non-completion and reward inclusive hiring. Okay, so we look on the number 2, increase employer awareness and incentive. So we can look that expand tax deduction and wage subsidies for company hiring PWDS, and also conduct mandatory inclusivity training for HR professional. And number 3 is improve accessibility and workplace modification that can provide government grants for workplace adjustment, example like ramp and assistive teach, and also technology, promote remote work opportunity for PWDS. So for the recommendation for improving PWD employment in Malaysia, okay, also we look that can improve accessibility and workplace modification like exchange vocational training and education. We call a TVET, like a technical and vocational education and training, to expanding TVET program to include PWD can equipment their with relevant skill, increasing their employability. All right. So the second is inclusive training program, ensuring the training program are accessibility and tailored to need of PWD can facilitate their integration into a workforce. So, how about the future outlook for employment of person with disability PWD in Malaysia? The first is law and policy to enforce in 1% public sector quota that only 0.35% of government jobs are held by PWD, and also need introduce stronger disability right protection. All right. So number 2 is improving employer engagement and support, like increase higher incentive like provided tax deduction and hiring grant, HRDF Malaysia. And also raise employer awareness to conduct training to eliminate hiring based bias, RSIS International. And then for the number 3 is exchange, accessibility and workplace modification to upgrade a workplace infrastructure and provided a financial support for accessibility improvement. And also adopt assistive technology like e-reader, AI tool, and also speech-to-text software. And number 4 is expanding education and vocational training to improve access to higher education, fund with PWD scholarship and special education program to increase internship and apprenticeship opportunities, also create hand-on job training with a company. And number 5, for the last, is level technology and remote work, encourage digital and remote job, flexible work, improve accessibility, like invest in AI and digital platform to support PWD for friendly job matching system. So we jump to the conclusion. The first is PWD deserve to equal job opportunity. And the second is employer, policymaker, and also associate must work together. And the last is change is happening, but more effort are needed. So thank you for my presentation about employment opportunity for people with disability in Malaysia. Thank you.
Thank you, Hasrul. This was the first in the series of 3. We have time maybe for one question or comment, and then move on to the other 2 presentations. And I know for some of us, it's been a very long day, so apologies for being tired. But maybe let's move into the next presentation, and maybe there'll be, or Roger, I saw you unmuted. Did you have a question?
Yes, I just had one quick question. Thank you, Renata. Okay. I noticed in the examples of programs for people with disability, Starbucks and Tesco were 2 of the companies mentioned, and you know, they're companies that began outside of Malaysia in Western countries. Is the nature of the company and their management and their policies an important factor in these opportunities for people with disability?
Roger, sorry. Can you repeat it again? Probably Dr. Wan will answer it.
The examples of programs involving people with disabilities in the workplace. One example was Starbucks. Another example was Tesco. And then Tesco is from the UK. Starbucks is from America, where maybe there are different policies and attitudes in the companies about employing people with disabilities that perhaps made it easier to start with those companies. Would you like to comment about that?
Thank you. Roger, I think it's good main issues on what we are trying to do in Malaysia just now. And later on in our presentation, later with Petronas, it's one of our Malaysian company who are doing what we call that adapting the Western policies on the employment of people with disabilities. And yeah, I agree with Roger that we are trying to have an identical Malaysian culture for the people with disabilities in employment. And so that's that we are learning for the last 10 years on looking how the developed country have been done from, for example, from Starbucks and so on, and McDonald's, especially in Malaysia. So today we are trying also in our first part of Malaysia to just giving some overview what happened in Malaysian current employment. Later on, Dr. Wan will talk about some area of improvement, and we have a case study from Malaysia, from Malaysian Petronas National Oil Company, who are doing for now just looking on the neurodivergent population of working. So that's my comment first, Roger.
Okay, thank you, Hazrat.
All right, thank you. So let's move to the second presentation on the inclusive environments. And if you could please introduce yourselves, and then you can go ahead.
Okay, let me share the screen first. Okay. Okay, can you see the presentation right now?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, hi everyone. Thank you, Regatta. Okay, so it's our turn to share our presentation today on building inclusive work environments, perspectives on disability employment strategies. I'm Wan Arnidawati, Wan Abdullah from UPM, University Putra Malaysia. And with me is Dr. Hasrul Hoshan from Sultan Idris Education University. Okay, so in this presentation, I will walk you through the key aspects of our study, the introduction to the studies, problem statement, objective, methodology, the major findings, and most importantly, actionable strategies and recommendations to foster more inclusive workplaces. Okay, a little bit, previous presentation, we have heard just now that they have provided the general introduction about the PWD's employments in Malaysia. And this presentation shares insights from our recent study titled Enhancing Employment Guidelines for Persons with Disabilities in the Public and Private Sectors. And our research was motivated by the urgent need to improve employment opportunities for PWDs in Malaysia. As we know, many capable PWDs struggle to obtain and retain meaningful work. Even though there are some policies to support PWD's employment in Malaysia, significant gaps remain in practice. This study was designed to understand those gaps and identify what can be done to bridge them. And this work is a collaborative effort of UPM, University Putra Malaysia, in partnership with Talent Corporation Malaysia and the Ministry of Human Resources. Through this collaboration, we combine academic rigor with practical insight from government and industry. Okay, a little bit about the problem statement. As of December 2024, Malaysia has about 751,000 registered PWDs, and roughly almost half of it are of working age. But despite various efforts, the employment rate for PWDs remains very low. For instance, we have a policy aiming for at least 1% of public sector jobs to be held by PWD in the public sector, but it isn't being fulfilled and make up only about 0.33% of PWD, far below than the 1% target. And this reflects a gap between policy and practice. The target exists on paper, but enforcement is weak and most agencies fall short. And furthermore, current guidelines for managing employees with disabilities are insufficient. Without comprehensive guidelines, many employers are uncertain how to support PWD in employment. And finally, negative attitudes and misconceptions remain in many workplaces, as mentioned by the presenter just now. Some employers hesitate to hire PWD due to baseless fears that PWD will be less productive or too costly to accommodate. Such biases directly limit job opportunities. One participant in our study shared that he was passed over for a job simply because the employer was unsure how to deal with someone in a wheelchair. Stories like this underline that attitudes must change alongside policies. So our studies was guided by 3 key objectives. First one, to identify the main employment barriers faced by persons with disability. Second, to critically evaluate the effectiveness of current employment policies and practices in Malaysia. And third, to recommend practical, actionable strategies for inclusive workplaces. Okay, to achieve this objective, we employed a mixed method approach, combining quantitative surveys and qualitative focus group discussion. And on the quantitative side, we conducted an online survey with 159 participants from various organizations, including 41 employers, 38 workers, and 80 employees with disabilities. And conducting the survey online enabled participants to respond anonymously at their convenience, which encouraged honest and candid feedback. While on the qualitative side, we held 6 focus group discussions involving a total of 72 participants, inclusive of employers, co-workers, and employees with disabilities. And this discussion allowed us to hear personal stories and nuanced viewpoints that numbers alone cannot provide. Through the focus group, we captured their daily life experiences. For example, an employee using a wheelchair describing their difficulties with office accessibility, or a manager discussing challenges and successes in supporting disabled staff. Okay, so let's move to the key findings. Okay, our research revealed 4 key challenges that continue to hinder the employment of PWDs. Okay, some sort of a repetitive kind of challenges over the world, right? Okay, the first one is the policy gaps and limited enforcement. Existing policies such as the 1% hiring quota are not adequately enforced and are too limited in scope. For example, there is little accountability to ensure organizations actually meet the 1% target. And there are few incentives or requirements for PWD hiring in the private sector. This gap leaves many initiatives ineffective on the ground. Okay, the next one is negative employer attitudes and discrimination. We know that attitudinal barriers remain a serious problem. Surveys and focus group shows that some employers still doubt about the productivity or capabilities of PWDs. This bias can manifest in subtle discrimination. For instance, not considering a qualified candidate for a specific role due to assumptions about their disability. And such mindsets result in qualified individuals being overlooked or marginalized in the workplace. Then, physical inaccessibility in workplaces. We can see that many work environments are not fully accessible. Basic features might be missing, for example, ramps or elevators for wheelchair users or adapted restrooms. And assistive technologies like screen readers for blind employees may also not be available. When the physical workspace is difficult to navigate or use, it discourages both potential employees and employers from integrating PWD. And finally, the limited availability of supportive resources. There is a shortage of support services and resources to help integrate PWD into the workforce. For instance, smaller companies may not have access to sign language interpreters, job coaches, or funds for assistive devices. Likewise, there are few external support centers or advisory services to guide employers or disability inclusion. Without such resources, even employers who want to be inclusive can struggle to accommodate or retain PWD staff. Okay, so the next findings is responding to the challenges identified. So our study proposes a comprehensive set of strategies to foster disability inclusive workplaces. So we have grouped our recommendations into 4 key focus areas: strengthen employment policy, promote inclusive workplace culture, enhance workplace support, and ensure career development. Okay, and each of these areas targets a different dimension of inclusion, from the broader policy framework to the everyday workplace culture and support, down to an individual's career progression. In the next few slides, we will break down each area and highlight specific strategies we recommend. Okay, so to strengthen the policy framework for PWD employment, we recommend several actions. The first one is we need to expand coverage and enforcement of employment quotas. The current 1% hiring quota for PWD should be broadened in scope and more strictly enforced. This could involve extending similar targets or incentives to private sector employers and actively tracking compliance in both public and private sectors. For example, organizations could be required to report their number of PWD employees annually. With stronger oversight, the quota becomes a real commitment rather than just a guideline. Second, we propose developing comprehensive guidelines covering all aspects of employing PWDs. This would give employers a clear guideline on how to recruit, onboard, accommodate, manage, and advance employees with disabilities effectively. By having this, employers will be better equipped to act inclusively. Third, we need more explicit legal protections for PWD in the workplace. This could mean updating employment laws to clearly prohibit disability-based discrimination in hiring and promotion. Equally important is to establish a mechanisms to monitor compliance and handle complaints. And finally, we recommend instituting regular audits or review of organizations' disability inclusion efforts. Companies and government agencies could be audited on metrics like their PWD hiring rate, workplace accessibility, and provision of accommodations. Publishing or sharing these audit results would create transparency and hold employers accountable. Over time, knowing that inclusion is being measured will encourage organizations to continuously improve their practices. So implementing these policy measures creates a stronger top-down push for inclusive employment. It sets clear expectations and consequences, encouraging all employers to prioritize disability inclusion. Policies alone are not enough. Day-to-day workplace culture must also embrace inclusion. Therefore, initiatives to foster a more inclusive, supportive culture within organizations also should be highlighted. Okay, as we know, education is key to breaking down biases. Thus, we suggest disability equality training for employers and employees. In this session, can cover practical guidance, for example, appropriate communication and etiquette, and challenge common misconceptions. Ideally, they would involve PWDs as trainers or guest speakers, since hearing first-hand experiences can be more powerful in changing attitudes. Beyond formal training, organizations should also promote ongoing awareness to normalize disability inclusion. This would include sharing success stories of employees with disabilities in internal newsletters, celebrating events like International Day of Persons with Disabilities in the company, or encouraging leaders to speak openly about the importance of inclusion. The goal is to continually reinforce positive narratives and dismiss myths so that having colleagues with disabilities is seen as ordinary and even beneficial. And lastly, Inclusion has to start from how people are hired and how they are treated once on the job. So an inclusive recruitment process ensures job advertisements and interviews are accessible. For example, offering sign language interpreters or alternative assessment methods for candidates who need them during the interview session. Okay, so it also means selecting candidates based on their skills and qualifications without letting biases creep in. Equitable payroll practices ensure that employees with disabilities receive the same pay and benefits as others in equivalent roles. Fair treatment in hiring and compensation sends a strong message that PWD are valued as equal members of the team. So by cultivating an inclusive culture through education, awareness, and fair practices, we tackle the subtle but powerful barriers of stigma and bias. Over time, these efforts will help make diversity and inclusion a natural part of the workplace environment. Okay, so the third recommendation, we know that even with good policies and a positive culture, employees with disabilities need the right supports and accommodations to truly succeed. Therefore, we need to enhance workplace supports. Employers should be flexible in how they bring new talent with disabilities into the organization. This might mean adjusting hiring procedures, customized recruitment and onboarding processes. For example, allowing a skills demonstration or trial work day as part of the interview for someone who communicates better through doing, or simply being patient with longer interview durations. And after hiring, onboarding should be tailored to the individual's needs. For instance, a new employee with autism might benefit from a structured orientation plan and a workplace buddy to help them acclimate. The idea is to set each employee up for success from day one by accommodating different learning and integration styles. Furthermore, a truly inclusive workplace equips employees with the tools and environment they need. This includes providing assistive technologies like screen readers, speech-to-text software, or specialized communication devices, and making physical adjustments such as installing ramps, ergonomic workstations, or adjusting lighting and noise levels. Importantly, many accommodations are not as costly as employers fear, and there are government incentives or grants in some cases to help compensate costs. We also propose establish disability employment support centers. This could be government-backed or run in partnership with NGOs. The idea is to have a one-stop resource where employers can get expert advice on inclusive hiring and accommodations, and where PWDs can receive career counseling, training, or job placement support. And by putting these support mechanisms in place, we remove practical barriers that might otherwise hinder a person's ability to get hired and perform well. And our final category of recommendations focuses on making sure that once PWDs are employed, they have equal opportunities to grow and build fulfilling careers. Inclusion shouldn't stop at hiring. It must extend through retention and advancement. So the first one, organizations should establish clear merit-based criteria for promotions and career progression. And they need to communicate this to all employees, including those with disabilities. Managers must also intentionally include employees with disabilities in mentorship programs, leadership training, and succession planning. This way, a qualified employee with disability has the same chance to be at a supervisory or management position as anyone else. Besides, the performance of employees with disabilities also should be evaluated with the same practices as other employees with regard accommodations considered. Okay, having well-defined objective evaluation metrics focus on job outcomes are proposed so that personal biases are minimized. This normalizes the development process. A PWD employee can understand their strengths and areas for improvement and feel confident that they are being judged fairly. Moreover, providing targeted professional development helps employees with disabilities reach their full potential. Employers can set up mentoring programs, for example, pairing a junior employee with a disability with a more experienced mentor who provides career guidance. They should also ensure training programs and workshops are accessible, for instance, by providing sign language interpreters or materials in Braille for training sessions. So by ensuring equitable career development practices, organizations can retain talented employees with disabilities and help them thrive. This completes the inclusion journey from recruitment to career advancement. PWDs should have the same opportunities to succeed as anyone else. So translating recommendations into action requires concrete implementation steps. Our study outlines several key actions to kickstart and sustain progress. First, to form a task force or committee specifically to monitor disability employment initiative. This committee should include government officials, private sector representatives, and persons with disabilities or advocates. Its job would be to oversee the implementation of policies, for example, tracking each ministry compliance with hiring quotas and reviewing how complaints of discriminations are handled. By having a high-level group regularly examining these issues, we ensure accountability and keep PWD employment as a priority on the national agenda rather than just a one-off project. Second, to develop official guidelines for the employment of PWDs in both public and private sectors. This document should compile best practices and procedures covering recruitment, workplace accommodations, performance management, promotion, etc. The Ministry of Human Resources, for instance, could coordinate this effort with input from various stakeholders. Once these guidelines are published, they should be widely disseminated and integrated into organizations' HR policies. Having a clear manual helps standardize inclusive practices across different companies and agencies. Third, to set up one-stop centers to support disability employment. And these centers can assist PWDs in finding jobs and assist employers in hiring and accommodating PWDs. For example, an employer could contact the center for advice on modifying a workstation for a new hire, or a job seeker could get help with interview preparation. And starting with a pilot center in major city could be a way to refine the concept, which can then be expanded regionally. And lastly, to encourage partnerships among government agencies, industries, and NGOs to advance disability employment. By pooling resources and expertise through such collaborations, we can create a supportive ecosystem that increases individual efforts. It ensures that inclusion is not just the responsibility of one entity, but a shared mission across. So in conclusion, we would like to highlight three main takeaways. Okay, the first one is inclusive workplaces are both essential and achievable. When given opportunity and support, PWDs can contribute greatly to any organization. And it's not only a moral duty to include them, but it also makes good business sense to tap into this diverse talent pool. Second, achieving true inclusion requires a multifaceted effort. We need stronger policies, supportive workplace cultures, effective support systems, and equitable career opportunities, all working in tandem. From legislation down to daily practices and from hiring through career advancement, inclusion must be woven into every step. And third, continuous monitoring and engagement are crucial going forward. We cannot simply implement changes and consider the job done. Regularly, reviewing progress allows us to refine strategies and address new challenges that arise. Importantly, PWDs themselves must be actively involved in this ongoing process. Their feedback and leadership ensure that initiatives stay relevant and effective, parallel to the notion of nothing about us without us. Furthermore, we should also stay open to innovative solutions, whether it's leveraging new technology like accessible remote work tools or assistive device, AI, or creative employment models to further break down barriers. And as to update all of you, these research findings have been presented to the Employment Committee of Malaysia National Council for PWDs, and we are working on these recommendations. The guidelines have been drafted and waiting to enforce, while the Employment Support Center is still under discussion. Just pray for the best for Malaysia. Okay, so thank you for your attention. Back to you, Regatha.
Yeah, thank you very much for the results of your study.